Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Team Spirit versus Double Dimension. Second game here, at least for me, on Line 2, the CAS, Kiev Major Regionals, etc., etc. My name is Dragonjob, and through a combination of luck, persistence, and sheer witchcraft, I got a certain someone back on the mic. It is Gorgon. How you doing, man?
The reliance on witchcraft cannot be understated.
Yeah. I had to like take lessons and everything to get good enough. But hey, you're finally here, man. It's been way too long.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I meant to make it here for that other game, but the CIS
Yeah.
regions games have been blazing, it seems, because we are very ahead of schedule
Absolutely.
right now.
At the on line 2 at the very least, we're like one game ahead of line 1, which could turn into issues later. Because like there's a Vega game, or like two Vega games that have potential conflicts. But we'll see how it goes. For now, I've got Team Spirit versus Double Dimension. Spirit looking good so far with 2 wins. One against Friends, one against Navi in a very spectacular fashion here, judging by the glimpse that I caught just a moment ago. And Double Dimension, kind of the opposite. They have lost all the games, I believe, so far against Navi, Comanche, and Effect just now. Of course, the Open Qualifier team.
I mean, between these two teams, right? You would look at Team Spirit and see the sheer amount of experience that they have. Double Dimension have like Always Want to Fly. He's experienced. Undershock is moderately experienced as well. But generally speaking, in this region, Team Spirit does better. In this region, Team Spirit is better known, and Team Spirit is one of the favorites to come out of these qualifiers, right?
Absolutely. No doubt about that. And yeah, this game is definitely gonna take them on a path. Of course, best of one, round robin. Every point can count in the end. Gotta somehow make it to these top slots so you can go into the double elimination bracket. Or the actual slot. Only one team is coming out of this alive after all is said and done. So should be interesting regardless. But so should this game here. Earthspirit and Darkseer picked up by Double Dimension first. Especially Darkseer is a hero that we don't see a whole lot of these days.
Yeah, Darkseer had some really interesting changes, actually. I think on 2, they made some of his talents more Darkseer specific, such as like I believe at level 15 you can increase the size of vacuum or something like that. It's been a little while since I've read those patch notes, but unfortunately he also received some nerfs that kind of evened out those benefits, and so like you said, not a hero that we see a whole lot of these days.
5 seconds remaining.
You really have to make sure that you get the most out of this hero, and you have to pick around it. And Earthspirit is one of these heroes that can make use of that Iron Shell early on if you land your rolls. That's a lot of extra damage added on to turn this into maybe a couple of extra kills, especially if you like get yourself an Iron Shell up top and then roam towards mid towards the sniper. Juggernaut himself maybe not as susceptible to it because he can always spin out, but you definitely got to look towards
melee,
these kind
though,
of,
right? You don't want to have to be forced to use your spin to avoid damage from a time spell like Iron Shell.
Yeah.
That's really not a very good position to be in. So basically anytime you have a melee carry, you're in a pretty good shape as Darkseer, at least in terms of being annoying. I'm not 100% convinced this isn't going to be a mid Juggernaut and a safe lane sniper. That's a possibility. When you see Darkseer, you may want to throw your ranged hero against him because he becomes much less potent, both in the early game and he gets a worse laning phase, which means that he's less strong later on in the game.
Yeah. It wouldn't be the first time we see Team Spirit as well mix it up a little bit. And up against Shadow Fiend, mid Juggernaut can work in the early levels. So just get yourself the Pullman Shield, Shadow Fiend. There's no clockwork this game, so you don't have these cog deny shenanigans to pump him up early.
Yeah.
So
there is a lot of magic damage that comes out of Shadow Fiend, but until he gets bottle up, he's not going to be able to spam it out at you. So as a Juggernaut, you don't really have to worry about that. By the time he gets bottle up, you're going to have healing ward up. And so you can mitigate all the damage that comes out of it. Shadow Fiend is one of the ranged heroes that Juggernaut can more or less go toe-to-toe with, especially if you're an experienced Juggernaut mid. Silencer, this is a hero that I think we've been seeing a bit more of as of the Kiev qualifiers. I feel like every game I popped into
10
has had a
seconds remaining.
Silencer in it one way or another. Did DD just run Silencer, in fact?
5
They did,
seconds
yeah.
remaining.
Always on Fly was running that as a support in the last game. Not so successfully in the end, just because they didn't have the power to punch through with that covering fire of the global silence. But the idea in general is pretty good. If you can time the global silence well, then can catch a Juggernaut off guard before it can spin, and then all of a sudden that hero feels a lot less tanky and survivable than he actually is.
Yeah,
So
so Silencer across all of the Kiev qualifiers is at about the 20, between 20 and 25 in terms of rank for pick, which is really high for Silencer. We don't normally see very much of this.
yeah, it's definitely one of
Yeah, but he's
always
in the
one
top quarter.
Fly's most picked heroes. 13-5 is his record, I believe, in the last 3 months or so. So they've definitely seen some success with it, but still a little bit iffy about in this game in particular.
Spirit Breaker.
Yeah, it's actually wow. I'm just going through the Silencer stats because I'm interested. The reason is so I'm in the U.S. East time zone, so I watched some of Southeast Asia last night, and then I went to sleep, and then I woke up, and we were already going today.
Yeah.
And Southeast Asia used it. It looks like a lot more. And CIS is using it a lot more, but no other regions really seem to be picking it. So I guess keep an eye on that pick as a regional favorite for CIS. One of the things that might be differentiating it from many other regions. I don't think Silencer is particularly good against Spirit Breaker, though. You can't silence Bash. It's difficult to get away from him. Silencer is one of these heroes that really needs to make sure his space is
10
respected.
seconds
He has a
remaining.
personal boundaries issues.
Oh yeah.
Same thing with
5
Disruptor. Like
seconds
Disruptor is
remaining.
not super susceptible to silences because he usually opens a fight by dropping everything he has anyway. He's not one of these heroes that's holding on to a spell for the right time. He just boom, throw everything on the floor and see what lands, which everything should land if you've thrown it on the floor. It's a mixed metaphor. What I'm saying, Drag and Drop, is that Silencer may not be the pick for this game. A Sniper doesn't care if you have a silence, right?
Yeah.
Ogre Magi is a hero that is pretty seriously impacted by silence, but only in the early and mid game. In the late game, his stun is really irrelevant. His slow damage over time is moderately irrelevant. He's really a bloodlust machine, and you're going to start the fight with everyone bloodlusted.
Yeah.
So unless that global silence comes with like a smoke gank or smoke rotation where DD are coming out ahead and catching Team Spirit off guard, it's really difficult to see the silencer scaling well, barring just an amazing laning phase where he picks up a ton of intelligence.
That's where you gotta look at DD's lineup though and ask a question whether they actually intend to scale, because they're running a Vengeful Spirit core, and they do have the Shadow Fiend mid, which is one of these heroes that can turn into the real damage dealer later on, can still scale well with Vengeance Aura, so that part can still work out, but where the hero really shines is in the early game, where you get a couple of levels in the safe lane, then start joining up with the rest of your team, especially if you also have a Darkseer as well as an Earth Spirit to go with that. So I see it in timing, like between the 10 to 15 minute mark. Maybe if Darkseer gets a good lane, he already has like the beginnings of a mechanism. But they can start grouping up where maybe Team Spirit isn't quite ready yet to deal with them.
Yeah, so especially because Shadow Fiend gets a lot of early game damage with Necromastery, much more than any other hero. So you're right, he does scale into that mid game really, really well, right out of the laning phase. The question to me is, I guess, if you are going to try to win this really early, if you are trying to just blitzkrieg your way to victory if you're DD, is Silencer better than a hero who pushes towers? Because right now, their big problem is that they should be able to win team fights at like 7 minutes if they want to try and snowball at that time.
Yeah.
But it's going to be very difficult for them to actually convert that into objectives. The armor on towers mitigates a lot of their overall damage type. They don't have anything that is especially good at that.
There's a bit of dissonance there. It's like it's shoehorning them into that one way to take the game, which is win a team fight on the back of every single global silence, and then push and take towers and snowball off of that. If they don't do that, if they just mess up once or twice, that's the flip side, right? Team
30
Spirit gets the
seconds to
most
battle.
time and space to farm, and then we get into that area where Sniper has a Maelstrom and he still does damage even though he's silenced. Maybe you don't get the jump on him. And all of these things start to go in Team Spirit's favor the longer the game goes after a certain
And
point.
also, Team Spirit have a Juggernaut, so they have sustained tower push. Like,
Yeah.
okay, let's say DD get a full team wipe at 8 minutes, but it costs them one hero and a lot of health on the rest of their heroes. Unless they have an available shrine, they have no way to safely go onto a tower because they have no way to mass heal their team.
Yep.
They don't have anything. So until they get a mechanism on the Darkseer, or whomever that carrier is going to be, I guess it could be Earth Spirit. Well, until they get a mechanism, their tower push isn't even sustainable, let alone talking about the damage. Here we go in the mid lane. FNG is going to be moved on. This shouldn't be anything particularly special.
It's
Since
just
he's going to rotate away from this lane after Earth Spirit does it anyway.
both teams just realize, hey, I'm an ogre. What I do is ogres, I stand mid and punch you in the face if you let me. So Earth Spirit, nice with another role here, just making his own presence known. And making sure that Undershock can get these early CS.
It's doing more damage to himself than it
Yeah.
is to FNG. This guy's sitting on top of 8 armor and 6.2 regen. You're not going to harass him out with rolling boulder. You got to go back to the drawing board.
It's a bit ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah,
The armor value and then 2 mangoes helping out with the regen even. Yeah, Undershock, he doesn't quite have the damage yet to even contest lasts reliably.
Yeah, he will soon, but right now it's just not there. So we do have the Juggernaut against the Darkseer up here, which should be fairly nice for the Darkseer once he gets at Ion Shell level 2 or 3. He should theoretically be able to at least get some last hits. The downside to running a Darkseer, though, is that you naturally just push your opponent's waves up toward their tower. So it's very difficult to gank your opponent's farming carry when you're running a Darkseer who is going to be spamming out that Ion Shell.
Also can be quite difficult to gain levels, because with the Disruptor on the field, it's like one of these heroes that can actually be quite dangerous to a Darkseer, who normally is able to rely on a Surge to get
I'm going
himself
to cut
out.
you off here because we've got Spirit Breaker moving on to Always Want Flag. It's double bash! With
And
the charge,
another
and
one.
That's gonna be...
Yeah.
Oh, one more.
That's a haste rune, isn't it?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
God.
That was a double bash with a haste rune. So,
God damn it.
like, the bash's damage is related to his speed, right?
Yeah.
That one bash took about a fifth of Silencer's health. Yeah, and he's going to have to walk all the way back to base now. That was very unfortunate. Really good PRD manipulation by that Spirit Breaker.
Now with that, Crystallize is under a lot more pressure in this lane, especially with FNG also making his way through. Luckily the wave is right on the tower, or close on the tower. So we should still be able to get a couple of right clicks here, but this Spirit Breaker can turn into a problem if he's getting this free levels here. Top lane, that's a spin.
Up.
No Surge available, or there is, but just as the kinetic field expires, he barely gets himself out. Still no first blood and roll back from Earth Spirit too.
And they're going to shrine up together here, it looks like.
Things Ice Rock, they say, as they drink this pure water.
Okay.
Under shock, okay.
Oh no, he gets there. There's no stun. It was on cooldown for the Magi. I wasn't quite able to get it off. FNG just going to kind of... It's unfortunate for Undershock that FNG is here to harass him. Like, he's not going to get back to the lane with his full shrine health, but I guess he did just get his bottle out, so it doesn't really matter.
So overall, who would you say the Team Spirit is getting the better end of it? Because despite everything, Undershock, he's already resigned to jungle farming. He's falling behind in CS up against a sniper. Top lane is also slightly out farming the Radiant safe lane, despite the Darkseer supposedly putting on more pressure.
Yeah, well, there are downsides.
Speaking of Darkseer, another kinetic field being spin down. This time around should be enough with a glimpse, but doesn't actually have the mana for it. TP out, one more right click should do trick, and they find him. First blood for BCZ.
Last of my kind, but first
GG WPGN.
Pretty much.
Like Disruptor is also a really good counter to Dark, right? But there are a lot of downsides to running a Darkseer into a melee, or really any carry, just running a Darkseer in general. One of the reasons we don't see him is he makes denying creeps really easy. So you're going to have an offlaner that comes in with like 20% less experience than what would normally be the case, right? I mean, look at Juggernaut's denies. He's sitting on top of 15 denies. I guess the more surprising thing is that his mid laner, the sniper, is sitting on top of 17 denies.
That's about the time where Shadowfiend has enough souls to be able to win these last hit battles more often than not.
Iceberg is more than a full level ahead of
roll through here, and Iceberg should end up falling, which might do turn this level deficit around. FNG at the same time though came in through the other side, and the shrapnels are still going. Bring down Undershock. Vensko also making a rotation. Not a lot of mana, but they're still gonna try to go for this. The roll will not be enough. The last right click from Vensko, enough to secure that kill as well.
Very nice rotation here coming from Team Spirit. Yeah, they did lose the sniper, but it's more important to kill the Shadow Fiend than to have the sniper not die. If he's being forced to constantly recollect souls, he can't rotate at all. And the sniper was already very well ahead, so it's not like he fell behind because of that. He's still about half a level ahead of the Shadow Fiend.
It's also a matter of both gangs, kind of both wraparounds from the supports from both teams coming in at the same time. Iceberg making a decision, alright, let's not panic, let's not try and run back to base and not achieve anything. No, he just turns around, throws in a couple of shrapnels. Okay, Phobos, he gets a bounty rune away from Undershock. He might give his life for it if another raise lands, and it does, just on the edge.
Nice raise. That raise was without vision too, I think. That was just a nice sense of where he was. Yeah, once again, though, the Spirit Breaker went in on the Silencer after the charge bash, got another bash. He's been counting out his PRD very, very, very well. Like he's been waiting to charge until he's pretty sure he's going to get a bash.
Yeah. That was such a good change. They did that. Just having a reliable bash, or more or less reliable bash.
More, yeah, reliable-ish. Oh, okay, this is...
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say anything because that was just set up by this beautiful ward up here.
Yeah, that ward, it's really early in the game that aggressive, but if you've got a Spirit Breaker and you know your opponent Shadow Fiend is playing from behind, he is going to be using those camps to try and get his souls back up. Yeah. Absolutely 100%. There's 0% chance that he won't.
And there we go again. Another charge on Evgeny here on the Earthbird as he shows himself, and the level of damage should be, especially with the assassinate coming through. Yeah, give it to Iceberg.
On the plus side, there is no Sentry Ward on the supports for Spirit, so they can't get rid of this Sentry Ward. This will eventually be dewarded. The courier's going to scout it out right now. They're gonna try to get another kill for it.
Gotta go again on Shock. This time around, always want to fly comes in, but look at him, he's locked in place. Can throw out a Razor too, but another bash and the assassinate from the sniper, and it's still not done yet. Shrapnel comes through, Static Storm from the side, locking them away from each other. Always want to fly cap drag from the glimpse even onto the Earthsplit into another charge. Will secure both of these kills eventually, I guess.
At a certain point, you just say, alright, our opponents can see there. I get it. I get it. They really like that camp. It's very entertaining to them. We'll let them watch it for a little while longer.
Yeah.
They just traded off 4 or 5 hero kills to get rid of 1 ward.
Yeah. That was...
It's a ward that at this stage in the game would usually not even be particularly useful.
Yeah.
It's only because of the Spirit Breaker that ward even matters.
Absolutely. And this is the classic way to counter Shadow Fiends as well, right? I mean, just shut him down early, shut him out of the lane, and then shut him out of the jungle. And then he has no net worth to really go on, and consequently has very little impact going forward into the mid game.
Yeah, and as we had mentioned, it's really important for DD that they get into this game early. If they go late,
Hang on, bottom lane. Another charge here. Gets stun up, but not before the bash connects. Ultimate from DK Phobos. This time it's a one position. Vengeful Spirit will take his spill thanks to rotation from BZZ, providing that extra damage. Meanwhile, always on the fly, trying to go for Vanskor here, but he's juking and jiving. And Iceberg is chipping away, gets another kill for himself, dominating the streak, not even 10 minutes into the game.
whew, you are looking at some trouble. I'm not 100% sure how you scale yourself back into this game, to be quite honest. They're going to try to kill the sniper, but the TP rotations are almost certainly going to be here. Or not.
Maybe not, yeah. So.
Is everybody on cooldown? What's going on here? No, everybody's got it except the Ogre Magi.
I just want to limit the Pinata strat. Don't let the kill streak go too far.
Yeah. You don't want to give them 1,000 gold later on. It's much better to give them small increments.
Exactly.
I see what's going on. This is some pretty next level stuff in the CIS qualifiers.
It's very
I think a lot of people are probably not watching these qualifiers.
Here we go again. They find a swap here with Icon Ward or something. How'd they see this? Oh yeah, there it is. Right on top of it. Was obstructed by all the death and destruction, but Team Spirit is still not done yet. They want to save this tower. The charge coming through onto Undershock. There's none of shrapnel available in the second here, but now the turnaround is there from Crystallize. Another one for one
These kills
trade.
really matter. I don't know. Like, it's 5-11, so obviously D are playing from behind in terms of momentum, but those kills were worth much more than the equivalent kills that Team Spirit got, because DD is farther behind. They were almost 5,000 net worth behind before that fight, and now they're less than 4,000.
Yeah.
So a swing of like 1,200 net worth overall. If they get one or two more engagements like that, especially if they get coupled with towers, maybe they are back in this.
It's already starting to translate into items for Undershock. He is even the top farmer on his team right now, not too far away from his mid lane opponent that kind of crushed him really hard in the laning phase. All he has the Dragonlance coming and going for the Shadow Blade next by the looks of it, unless he wants to decide otherwise. And yeah, he's sitting at max souls right now.
Yeah, the big problem for that laning matchup is not necessarily that he doesn't have... It's like you said, they're basically caught up. They're 100 away from each other. It is, though, that the sniper is ahead in terms of levels. He's going to get his level 10 talent pretty early here. He's going to give him a lot more damage. I can only imagine that he's going for the plus 15 attack speed and not for the mana regen.
Yeah.
So for Iceberg to grab that plus 15 attack speed before Shadowfiend even has his ultimate.
Let's get into something. Charging Crystallize. Undershock is there as well. Can try and turn this around with the glow silence as well. But they don't quite find the angle to immediately make use of it. They still get a stun off onto FNG, who will give his life for the cause, most likely. Especially with that Earthsplit ultimate taken through. Another roll in. And turn around perhaps. But DBZ only with a level 1 Omnislash, not doing too much. Control comes through from DK Phobos, but they don't have the damage here. Yevgeny doing so much to control the backlines. Another swap, and BZZ will also take a spill. One or two multi team fights. That was a big one for DD.
I cannot, for my life, figure out why Team Spirit didn't just say, "Oh, we can't cast spells. Okay, we'll leave." It seemed very. They really wanted to make that fight happen.
Yeah.
And had they won that fight, I'm not sure that it would have really gained them very much, because there's no tower for them to push down here, so they would have had to walk to another lane in order to put. But yeah, we were talking about a couple of things this game, right? Well, one of them is a couple more fights like that, and this game gets much harder for Team Spirit. Like, it gives DD a window. Well, the other thing we talked about is that DD are going to have difficulty capitalizing on fights to make objectives. They had to fight under the shadow of their opponent's tier 1 with creeps not that far away, and they weren't able to make it happen.
Yeah.
That tier 1 still stands, and that perfectly exemplifies what we were talking about during the.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you mentioned it. They have the timing window now. Look at Darkseer, you see the mechanism here, almost at the arcane boots as well, if he wants them. We have an Earthsplit with some decent farm and levels as well. Also want to fly, of course. All you need is at level 6. And the global silence gonna come off cooldown in a while, and Big story is Undershock here. He's close to claiming the complete top of the net worth chart. Even ahead of BZ now after that fight.
Yeah, that fight was huge for him, and he's going to be able to convert very, very soon.
Yep. Plus 20 attack speed as a talent.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going for... Honestly, on Shadow Fiend, a lot of situations, movement speed is that useful, because you're either going to get the Shadow Blade, which is going to help you set up your positioning without the movement, or you're going to get the Blink Dagger, which is going to help you set up the... without the movement speed. So there aren't a lot of situations in which with Shadow Fiend you're chasing heroes and unable to catch up with them. Usually if they get away, you're just going to try to raise them and then get away. He's pretty vulnerable. He's not a hero that likes to chase too far.
Yep.
Wow, look at DD though. They are going to immediately utilize this mechanism. Apply pressure on the tower. And once again, we talked about this earlier. As soon as they get that mechanism, that is the window of opportunity for them, and they realize this is when they're strong.
Not really trying to force the hand so far though. They're in tier 1, not under too much pressure. Bottom lane a little bit more so. Iceberg chipping away at it, but now Global Silence to try and help this around here and make sure to continue to angle on the Juggernaut. They get the kill. Static Storm is down, but not really doing too much. Vanskor will be the second one on the list eventually. There we go, give it to Crystallize, and yeah, once again, that Global Silence just making sure that the defensive capabilities from Team Spirit can't come out to save them.
Yeah, and the kills on Juggernaut are very important here because I mean, look at his gold. He had enough gold before that Death Device Ultimate Orb for his Manta, and now he doesn't.
Yeah,
that makes a difference.
Shashan always want to fly, so rest of DDs in Roche Pit. Setting up around a Darkseer, ready with a vacuum wall. No blink just yet, but now with the shrapnel, making it a little bit more complicated. Everyone on the side of Team Spirit still alive, plus the absence of another Global Silence. Make DD think twice about that attempt.
I had said during the draft and in early stages of this game that it's difficult for me to imagine this Global Silence being very effective beyond about this stage in the game. But it's been much more effective than I expected to be, even at this stage in the game. Like Team Spirit has been baited into a couple
down. On the shock, will get caught. Now needs some help. Defensive swap from Crystallize into the Omnislash here, but Mechanism keeps him alive. Now BZZ, a lot of trouble. The right clicks are dead, not enough. He vacuum wall on 3 though, as he's as there's this charge coming through. DK4 was trying to create some chaos. Nice little ultimate death from Undershock from the low ground, doing a good amount of damage. 1-4 trade so far. And now the Static Storm with a couple of low heroes will finish off too. Vanskor with the double kill. DK4 was as well. Somehow, with the urn, I guess. Killing off another hero.
That's painful. That fight probably would have gone differently if there didn't happen to be a but a very nice defensive placement of that ward.
Yeah.
Coming out from Team Spirit, basically swung that entire fight. And once again, maybe that fight goes differently if Undershock gets his ultimate off either a little earlier or a little closer. Basically what he was casting it for there was not so much the damage, but the damage reduction. A 50% damage reduction over the course of the fight makes a substantial difference in the outcome of the fight, but he didn't get it until his team was basically dead anyway. Had he been able to get it off right in the middle of the fight so that everybody took a ton of damage, or had he reduced the damage 5 seconds earlier, maybe that fight swings another way. But I think the ultimate story of that is that there was no Global Silence available.
Yeah.
And Always Want to Fly wasn't really able to contribute very heavily.
It's kind of the issue that can run in as a silencer. You don't have that ultimate available, but you really do, right? Either you scaled far enough ahead that you can actually do some right-click damage with the Glaze of Wisdom, but the Arcane Curse at this point, yeah, sure, it's annoying, it's a little bit of extra damage, but it's not really going to change the way that the enemy is taking the team fight.
Yeah, particularly against Team Spirit, because they don't have anybody who spams spells a lot. Maybe against the Ogre Magi, who's probably in the fight trying to keep Bloodlusts up. Against him, you might get a couple stacks, or you might end up getting quite a bit of damage out of it, but nobody else really is that susceptible. I mean, Juggernaut can dispel it. A Sniper probably isn't even going to be within a range of.
Oh, look at this. Team Spirit isn't the global silence available, but they're the ones who have the Aegis in hand, so DD gotta be very, very careful about the angle that they're setting themselves up in now.
The global silence doesn't really matter that much anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, we're starting to get to the point. Juggernaut, even with the Manta style, able to counterplay that, still get the spin off.
Yeah. So.
Oh, glimpse back to find Crystallize. The charge comes through as well. Stun from FNG, zoning kinetic field. The swap not gonna save him. The rest of his team just leaving him to die.
Yeah. I will say DD have done a very good job of capitalizing on players from Team Secret and even forcing some players, right? Making Team Secret make difficult decisions. That has worked out for them, and they've been doing a good job of that. But they got off to such a rough start, and their draft is such that they have such a small window. Once again, it would take quite a bit of misplay from Team Secret Team Spirit, excuse me, for DD to come out ahead here.
Yep. What else to add there for now? It's very hard to get into a fight right now, especially if Team Spirit stay as coherent as they are. This thing is like 3-4 man units. VZ is the only one split up a little bit here, just trying to address this push. We'll chase him away. DK4 was also with a bit of an interception, but nothing more will come of this particular agenda. So tier 2 actually still stands. DD with a little bit of extra time, but yeah, absolutely right. I mean, what do they do with this time? What items can they build to give them an extra shot?
Yeah, so having lost that Aegis is probably the most impactful reason they can't utilize this time. They could still theoretically come out ahead with a smoke gank or something, right? If their positioning is good and they find the right opportunity. But they kind of have to just wait out this Aegis, because otherwise it's very difficult for them to take a fight into 2 snipers, essentially.
Yep.
And then by the time this Aegis expires, that window of opportunity will have gone. The reason earlier we had that window of opportunity is partially just because DD went for cheaper first items. And because they went for cheaper first items, they got their first items up faster, even though they were relatively. But now...
that helps.
Is going to grab a kill. Yeah. But now Spirit are getting to the point where they have everything that they basically need. Sniper has Hurricane Pike up for positioning. The Juggernaut is able to lift off the silence with the Manta style, and very, very soon we're going to have a Hand of Midas on the Disruptor. So that's a thing that he's deciding to do.
Alright, why not?
I guess if you're pretty sure that you're going to win late,
yeah,
it's not the decision that a lot of players would make, but I've got absolute faith in Vanscourt to know what works with the build that he's comfortable doing.
I mean, like, at face value, the Disrupt is a pretty good hero to have a lot of net worth on, and a lot of levels
He also
as well.
he went for the plus 60 gold a minute over the 100 cast range, which was statistically is not the call, but in certain situations it can be, especially if you're expecting to be inactive for a long time, like if you don't expect your team to take fights. That's the reason to get it. Otherwise, like a kill on the level 10 hero is minimally worth 300 something gold, which is several minutes worth of that.
Yeah.
60 gold a minute. So if 100 cast range can get you 1 kill, it's usually better than the gold per minute. But if you're not planning on fighting, then you're not planning on fighting, and it does look like Spirit is very happy to just split push and avoid.
Trade tier 2 for tier 2, a little bit of damage done through tier 3. Well, it's just like, even though DD is the one who technically get a little bit more on the objective side out of it, it still feels like Team Spirit is in control. DD is only getting these objectives because Spirit is letting them, essentially.
Yeah, and also, DD is grouping up as 4 or 5 to get objectives, and Spirit is going out as in bunches of 2. Yep. They've got a buddy system thing going on, which means they're getting a lot more experience. And if you look at the XP earned, it is tilting into the favor of Spirit. They're also getting a marginally greater gold income, and that's just going to be exacerbated by this Midas.
Also by this kill, super pro, he saw it
Nice
coming,
vacuum.
but vacuum is not gonna prevent that ultimate from coming through, so it's still a death.
It was a nice heads-up play.
Yeah.
There was nothing he could do to survive that rotation. Even if he had sprinted away, that Spirit Breaker would have caught up with him. So
Don't know when he saw the charge coming through, actually. Maybe if you saw it earlier, you can maybe TP out, but it's like a very hard call to make.
yeah, I'm also unsure where he saw the charge come through. I think might have just seen it through a gap in the trees or something.
Yeah.
Where was it? It was right here, right? So he probably saw it through this gap
Yeah.
in the trees.
Yeah.
Which is not enough time to TP as the
Not at all, no. Don't try this at home, folks. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Spirit is, given the builds that they went for, they are totally happy to spend 3 or 4 minutes sitting back, getting some items up before they fight again. And it seems like they have now finished what they wanted to. There is a Mjolnir up on the sniper, and that's going to be the word go. Nope, it's going to be the word never mind. Is what it's going to be.
Get a little bit into
Okay.
deep here, vacuum back in the stack storm here, catches 2 on the slash as well. Mechanism not enough to keep them safe, so that's what you call jebaited. Always want to fly next on the list and even get the glimpse on the Earth Spirit. Disaster strikes, 4 heroes down, only one of whom has buyback.
So that's
And,
the case of global silence, right?
Yeah.
Like, Disruptor blew everything that he needed to blow at the beginning of the fight. The Spirit Breaker already had gotten his charge in, and so it didn't really matter what else he was going to cast, and the Omni Slash was already out. Iceberg has 0 casting requirements whatsoever, so by the time that silence went out, it did literally nothing. It just had 0 impact.
Oh, you end up with Sniper and a Juggernaut who do a gajillion points of damage to buildings, so
Yeah.
looking for a second set of racks. Undershock is invis up. I'm not sure whether that's a sentry down, but of course it's also the gem on the Ogre Magi, so don't want to go too close to him either.
This is really smart of Spirit, to be quite honest. They earlier on in the game, they gave too many opportunities to DD by being overly aggressive that they really didn't need to, because they win the late game, right?
Yep.
We've been over this in a dozen different ways. Pretty much every way we can see, the late game goes to Team Spirit if they don't get over aggressive and make mistakes. So they're playing very passively, even though they're in a position where they could probably just go up mid and win right now. They're going to play it passive. They're going to play it safe because they know that the longer this goes, the better off we are. We aren't losing ground by taking it late.
Quite the opposite, man. There's still ways to grow for all of these heroes, especially with Disruptor. He ideally wants to get some usage out of the Midas, and yeah, he actually already has that Aghanim Scepter queued up, which like would prevent the mechanism or something from coming out. Not sure if, yeah, the BKB from Shadow Fiend is also online, so if you catch Undershock with that, then that's not gonna help him either.
Boy, a Hand of Midas recipe sitting, and a 27-minute Hand of Midas when your team goes late worse than your opponents. I'd love to talk to this player and ask him what's going on here. I guess he's just expecting a surge of experience coming out of that. If they can buy 4 or 5 minutes, he can catch up on level. But he's not behind him on this, right? Like he's caught up with the Ogre Magi. They're both level 12, and in fact the Earth Spirit's ahead of the Ogre Magi in terms of raw experience.
Yeah, it's not so bad at all. I mean, you got your level 2 ultimate. Even with the Midas, level 3 is not gonna come along anytime soon. Like,
and
his
you know, if
talents-
that money had gone into finishing a Cyclone Staff or something, then suddenly you've got the ability to bait out a Juggernaut ulti, you have the ability to dodge a bunch of damage, you have the ability to stop the sniper from contributing to fights if you roll in and then Cyclone him while the rest of your team comes in with a good vacuum wall or something. I'm sure there are, you know, he could have gone in for a Hood of Defiance, I guess. I don't know. It's just, I'm a little confused why at this stage in the game where it does, like, DD are grouping up a lot. It looks like as a team, they very much want to try and find an active solution to this game.
Yep.
A very passive item comes out.
I definitely see them angling around this rush bit. They can't really easily take it themselves, despite a bit of minus armor that they have. Nice water to keep an eye on the shrines though, but immediately
also have a
spotted
creep.
out.
Checking out, and the creep is gonna see. Yeah, they know. They're just gonna back out.
Traitor creep. Gonna get punished.
Oh, the wraparound here. This could be really, really good if the silence comes out at just the right time. Silencer's too far ahead, though. Always want to fly. Is risking getting spotted out without the rest of his team.
Wrapping all the way
This
around.
could be-
So far, Team Spirit have no idea. Undershot going forward here. The gem is way too far away. There it is. The force stuff's back here. Global silence as well as BKBs every which way. Always want to fly is gonna get brought down first. Undershock trying to focus on somebody else. That's F1G. But now they're all sitting in the static storm here. BKB will land on top of the Omni Slash, and Sniper just pounding away from the low ground. Team Spirit just too strong for these shenanigans. Too much mobility on the heroes to be caught out like that.
Yeah, that
Now-
was a real bummer. For DD, they just didn't communicate that well. The silencer went out ahead while it was pretty clear that Undershock wanted to get off Requiem of Souls to open that fight.
Yep.
And then silencer revealed, and then he started the Requiem of Souls to try and just one-shot out that silencer. And Vengeful Spirit swapped the silencer away from it, so the Requiem of Souls had to be canceled. And then at that point in time, the bedlam of the fight had already begun, and there was no good target for Requiem of Souls, so he just kind of blew it in the fight to try and get the negative damage. But because his team had already started the fight, the opponents were all disparate, and only like 2 or 3 of them got hit by the damage modifier, and very few of them took any significant damage. And as soon as that global silence wore off, like, that fight was over.
Yeah. Another beautiful static storm. I mean, they keep fighting in these choke
Yeah, it
points
was.
that Vansco can really take good advantage of. Now, they made a beeline straight for the bottom racks, finish that one off, get a Roshan on top. And they could even get the shrines if they wanted to. Vansco just keeping guard up here for the time being. The scan finds Undershock.
Vanscore is brave. Not very far away from him.
So's Phobos, right? I mean, he's charging down the Earthbird, and this could turn into a kill, especially with him BKB. Not a whole lot that Yevgeny can do about this.
Yeah.
And yeah.
The real question is, can Vanscore steal the kill? No, Iceberg. can.
Iceberg steals it.
Yeah,
Gotta pet these
this game
stats.
is starting to look pretty over. There's no global silence for this. Oh, never mind. Global silence up in 3 seconds for. Global silence on the defense. Likely not going to make a very significant difference. And
Yeah. This is
yeah,
where, like,
that last
I'll take that as tribute.
it's just so painful, right?
Yeah.
It just looks like if DD had had an opportunity to scrim and practice like boot camp for an extra week or something, that fight would have blown the game wide open for them. They probably would have been able to get a tower out of it, but the communication just was not there.
Here we are, last set of racks. Team Spirit taking it slow. Waiting for the right opportunity, but yeah. How much of this do you think goes back to the draft and this Vengeful Spirit core? Because I gotta tell you, I'm not generally a fan of it whenever I see it.
Regeneration.
I don't think that this was the draft for it, and I don't think that Team Spirit is the team to run this against. Because I think this is the sort of thing that you run against a team that is relatively inexperienced, but technically very strong. Right? You do this sort of high pressure strategy with moderately scaling cores in order to throw them off guard and force mistakes out of them. But Team Spirit it's filled with veterans, and these guys are much less likely to make mid-game, late-game mistakes because of pressure that came from the early game, especially.
How can push commences? Iceberg with a completed Daedalus on top of everything else.
This is... I don't think that there's anything that they can do to stop this defense. Maybe if they get a really flop, but here we go. There's no
Maybe now,
flop.
vacuum wall, a couple of heroes on top of the good ultimates, and they get one, get two, both some walls. DK Phobos with zone BKB coming in, but damage still being done. The Omni Slash bouncing through, always on the fly, dies. Iceberg is still right-clicking away whenever he wants to, and buyback has already been forced out. There it is. Poor little Earthbird just gets chopped to pieces. And desperately trying to kill Iceberg, and he will actually somehow, Undershock. Making that work, but at what cost? BZZ still chasing him down with some Blink Dagger.
Yeah.
And,
Not a lot to be done there, and the GG will be called. Very well fought from DD. There were clear moments of brilliance in this game coming out of DD. There were obvious points in time where this could be a team to watch. Maybe in qualifiers ahead. They're starting to get to the point where in these qualifiers, it's looking pretty grim.
yeah, you can definitely see the potential, right? And generally speaking, if teams like that stick together with a couple of veterans and a couple of a bit of new blood, then those teams can turn out to be the next big thing. Essentially, they can turn out to be really, really strong. But DoubleDimension don't quite seem to be there just yet.
Yeah, and a lot of it's just communication issues, to be honest. Like even that draft that we sized the draft a little bit or looked at it, there were some, you know, issues with in terms of it was more difficult to execute than it necessarily needed to be. But a lot of the game went the way that it went just because of a lack of really strong coordination and teamwork, which usually comes down to communication. So for DD, that's one of the hardest things to shore up, but it's also one of the things that you can work on as a team easiest, right? Like that's something that everybody can contribute to. It's not like somebody is just technically failing the team.
Yeah.
So I look forward to seeing more out of the squad.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe we'll see them. Yeah, we'll see one more game, a closing game. It's going to be Double D versus Hive. Before that, we got Vega versus Comanche coming up next. Not sure if that's happening now or whether we're actually going to wait for the Line 1 to catch up. I'll keep you up to date as much as I can. And then, of course, we've got Empire versus Hive in the midst of those. So stay tuned. Gonna take a short break, but we hope to be back soon.